Hi, I'm Janet McCandless, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1 of the Music Tree Time to Begin. So before I go into the actual lesson, I wanted to talk a little bit about posture at the piano, because it is really important. You want to always be, no matter what instrument you play, you want to always be really comfortable. So the way that we use our body at the piano, we need to make sure that the bench is at the right height, or the chair that we're using, that the keyboard is at the right height, and that we have something to support the music that we're reading. So first of all, the bench. The bench and the keyboard work together. So you're going to have to see what kind of stool, chair, or bench you're using, and then adjust your keyboard height or the kind of chair that you're using accordingly. Basically, you need to have a good stable seat so that you feel like your knees are neither too high so that your feet are being pushed up towards you, or that you're sitting so high that you're kind of reaching for the floor. You need to have your feet need to be able to comfortably rest flat upon the floor. Then, the way that you can measure whether the height of your bench is correct is you put your hand at the piano, and you see I have, it's a fairly, if I lean forward, this is pretty much a 90-degree angle between my arm, and see how my wrist is level, and then between my elbow and my shoulder. And this allows me to have a free action all the way up, all the way down the keyboard with both hands. And it allows me to bring the strength from my back down into my hands, so when I need to play something in a loud way, that this force really is using my entire body, and I'm not just banging with my hands. This really helps you produce a good, full musical tone, and it also prevents any kind of repetitive stress injury. So that's very important. So how I hold my hand is in a very relaxed way, as if I'm holding a soap bubble. So I don't want to have tension in my hand. My hand should be soft. If I feel my palm, it should be soft. I shouldn't be like that. The claw, that's really bad for you. As you practice, and if you decide to really pursue being a keyboardist, you'll find that your back muscles become really well developed, because you do have to sit in an upright way. When I play the piano, and most classical pianists play, we lean slightly forward into the instrument. But so if you're leaning back, not good. If you're like this, it's weird. So there's our little bit about posture. So what are we going to be learning in the first unit of Time to Begin? Well, we're going to be learning keyboard topography, and we're going to be working with the two black keys, the two black keys group, and we're going to be working with the second finger. Now, in string instruments, like the violin, we number our fingers 0 for your thumbs, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 for your fingers. But in piano, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So our thumbs are 1. So when I say that we're using our second finger, I actually mean we're using our index finger. And so we're going to be using the fingers of the index fingers of the left and right hand, our 2s, and we're going to be moving over the black keys in groups of 2. So the first piece is called Take Off, and it talks about going higher. So when we go higher on the piano, we actually are moving to the right, and we say we're going up, because the tones go up. And of course, in number 2, in our second song, we go lower. And we don't play like I just did. I just demonstrated, we call that blocking the notes, but we actually play the notes individually. So for each note that is on the page, we play one time. And the notes in this book, we see that if the stem of the note is facing up, then it's played with the right hand. If the stem of the note is facing down, then it's played with the left hand. And this is all diagrammed for you very, very easily. And it's very well laid out in this book. So I'm going to demonstrate now playing Taking Off. Take Off. Couple things to watch, troubleshooting. Make sure that when you move your hands to the next octave, you're not crossing over each other, okay? So we're moving our hands as a unit together in this way. So the hands, right now your arms are actually moving as one. We will get to crossing over, but later. At this point, we're actually trying to make our hands work as one unit. Now, when we do the second piece, which is learning about lower, we start with the left hand and we go down. I'm beginning from the middle of the piano, what we would call the middle C. And I think it's a good idea for you to do this as well, because what you're doing is you're utilizing then the entire keyboard, and you're becoming at ease with working with something that can be 88 keys long. It's quite large. Now, if your keyboard has less than 88 keys, just make sure that when you start, you pick a two black note group that then you have 3 other 2 black note groups above you so you can play the piece, or 3 below you. So just make sure you space it out on your keyboard appropriately. Now, as you see, there is a text that's given, and sometimes it's really good to speak the text in rhythm so that you get a feel for the connection of the voice, the rhythm of the voice, and also what the rhythm of the music is. So that would be, get aboard the big airliner, up we're climbing, higher, higher. And now the trip is almost over, down we're gliding, lower, lower. Very simplistic, but it actually is important that you do this, because as you're tying your voice with the music, you're starting to associate what you're speaking with rhythm. And then this will come in handy as you start working with different types of note values. There are some things to think about. In Takeoff, there are 4 groups of notes and 4 notes in each group. And this is all put out on the golden side of the page. There's a little golden part on each end of the page. So I encourage you to fill those out as well. Now we're going to move on to the last concept of this particular unit. And it says we're learning about the quarter note and the half note. And the quarter note and half note are the 2 values that we're going to be working with for a while in this book. A quarter note is exactly half as long as a half note. So when we have a half note, we can say 1, 2 in our minds. But one thing that this book recommends is that, and you're just going to see my hand doing this, is that we use an arm swing, a full arm swing across our midline to, excuse me, this just went off, to show the rhythm that we're playing. So this is a quarter note, 1. And a quarter or a half note is 1, 2. So in this, if I'm going to swing in a canoe, this is what I'm going to be saying. Crossing the lake in a canoe, paddling along, watching the view. Now, swinging across the midline is a big developmental thing for the young child, the 7 or 8-year-old, because crossing midlines is a developmental challenge, and it's something that it's a threshold that needs to be passed for proper cognitive development. But as adults, it's also important for us to do this swinging, because what we're doing is internalizing the pulse. That means that we're developing a sense of inner rhythm, which is really important when we're playing music. And so I encourage you strongly to swing this, because the easiest way for us to internalize something is to actually do this, to actually do it with movement. Another thing that we do to internalize our rhythm is we speak the text, just like I did. We speak the text and swing it together, because that just combines and strengthens the internalization. So then what I would be doing with this piece, Crossing the Lake, or In a Canoe, it goes like this. Crossing the lake in a canoe, paddling along, watching the view. Then we have Spaceship, which is exactly the same concept, but put in reverse and going up. And I like to mess around with tempo at this point, because if you're in a canoe, it's nice and slow, but if you're in a spaceship, it's fast. So, rushing along, flying through space, you could end up any old place. So, these are the discoveries in Unit 1. Now, once you have made these discoveries, you have the chance to play in a garden, inchworm, rollerblades, and playing frisbee, which are all different combinations of what we have already practiced. If you go through this unit, which I encourage you to work through the entire unit in 1 week, what you're going to need to do is, I wouldn't spend so much time on takeoff and landing, but I would spend more time on the notes that have different values. And you want to swing and say the text. At this point, it's better for you to associate the rhythm with the text than it is for you to use numbers and counting, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. You could certainly do that, but we're going to be doing a lot of that kind of counting later. And there is a sense that when mankind was first working with rhythm, that we weren't counting it out, but that the rhythm was derived from text. So when you can work with text in a rhythmic way, you're really tapping into something that's very primal within us. And so I encourage you to do so, because it will actually help you internalize rhythm better. At the very end of this, you have 2 rhythm exercises, or 3 rhythm exercises. There's bells, new kite, and Jack and Jill. And what you'll want to do with this is swing again and say the words, and then write little dashes underneath. You put 2 dashes for a half note and 1 dash for a quarter note. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's learning finger numbers, learning the names of white keys, and making some pieces of your own, which is the improvisation section of this particular unit. So even though you're only working with groups of 2 black keys and quarter notes and half notes, you can still improvise short but interesting ditties. And I encourage you to do 2 or 3 of them through your week of practice. I'm not going to go into the activities book, because it's really self-explanatory at this point. And what I'm going to be asking you to do is, if you have a webcam, I would like you to record 1 of your short ditties and 2 of the songs that you have practiced over this week. And you can choose any of them that you want. But I'd just like to see what you're able to do on the piano. If you can only do an audio recording, that's fine, but I think that a video recording is better, because then what I can see is I can see your posture, I can see your hand position, and I can give you some pointers if there are any needed. So if you could record 2 pieces and then 1 improvisation, I would really appreciate that. If not, just send me an email saying that you're not able to for whatever reason. And I'm going to find a way for you guys to be able to post this on the YouTube channel. If you want to, I think that we can mark it for private, so if you don't want the other students to see this, that's fine by me. But I just like to have it so that I can see how you're doing. And it'll be nice to see your faces too. So I hope that this lesson was helpful, and I'm looking forward to our future lessons together.